I walked through Riverside Park with my guard up, scanning every face I passed. Autumn leaves crunched beneath my boots as a cold wind whipped through my thin jacket. I'd been so distracted I'd forgotten to dress properly, but honestly, the cold was the least of my worries. My mind kept replaying that will reading, the smug satisfaction on Vivian's face, the calculated cruelty in Gerald's voice. The Taylors had always viewed me as an outsider, but this was something else entirely. This was theft, pure and simple. Mrs. Taylor? I turned to see a young woman with copper hair and anxious eyes sitting on a bench nearby. She couldn't have been more than 25, clutching a leather messenger bag like it contained state secrets. "I'm Monica," she said, standing quickly. "Thank you for coming." "I don't understand," I said, keeping my distance. "My husband didn't have an assistant named Monica. He didn't work with Wellington and Partners." "I know." She glanced around nervously. "I don't actually work for Wellington. I worked for your husband's father at Taylor & Associates. I've been Mr. Taylor Sr.'s paralegal for the past year." My skin prickled with goosebumps that had nothing to do with the cold. "Why did you lie?" "Because they monitor my phone." Monica opened her bag and pulled out a manila envelope. 2 months ago, I was asked to witness a signature. It was your husband's will. Except, she swallowed hard. It wasn't your husband signing it. The world tilted on its axis. "What are you saying?" "It was his cousin, Elliot. They look similar enough. Same height, similar build. He wore a hat, kept his head down. I wouldn't have known, except I saw them talking afterward in Mr. Taylor's office. They were laughing. I felt physically ill." "You're telling me they forged my husband's signature on a fake will?" Monica nodded, her face pale. "I didn't know what it was at the time. They just told me to witness a signature. But after I heard about your husband's passing, and then overheard Mr. Taylor talking about the will reading today." She pushed the envelope toward me. "This is a copy of what I witnessed. And this," she pulled out her phone, "is a video I took of Elliot leaving the office that day. On her phone screen, I watched a man who, at a glance, could pass for Marcus walking out of an office building. But it wasn't my husband. The walk was wrong. The shoulders too stiff. Anyone who truly knew Marcus would spot the difference immediately. Why are you showing me this? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Because it's wrong, Monica whispered. And because they're planning to force you to sign over the business tomorrow. They already have the paperwork drawn up. Force me how? They have something on you, Mrs. Taylor, or they think they do. I've been ordered to compile a file. Old social media posts, financial records, interviews with former classmates, anything they can use to pressure you. A cold laugh escaped my lips. They won't find anything. I've got nothing to hide. Monica looked doubtful. Mr. Taylor seems very confident. Of course he was. Gerald Taylor hadn't built a legal empire by being unprepared. He was meticulous, ruthless, and patient, qualities that had made him both feared and respected in legal circles. Qualities he'd wanted his son to inherit. But Marcus had been different, kinder, more principled. It was what I'd loved about him from the moment we met in that economics class at Northwestern. Why are you risking your job to help me? I asked. Monica. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. My mom raised me alone after my dad walked out. When he died, his new family tried to erase her, tried to pretend she never existed. 20 years together, gone. Her voice hardened. I won't be part of doing that to someone else. I clutched the envelope like a lifeline. Thank you. There's something else, Monica said, her voice dropping even lower. The firm represents Jackson Capital. The investment firm? She nodded. They're your biggest client, right? Worth almost half your business? My stomach dropped. Marcus and I had worked for years to land Jackson Capital. They were notoriously loyal to their financial advisors, had been with their previous firm for nearly 2 decades before we convinced them to switch to us. The Taylors have already spoken with Richard Jackson, Monica continued. They're convincing him that you can't handle the account without Marcus, that the firm is falling apart without him. The pieces suddenly clicked into place. They weren't just trying to steal what Marcus and I had built. They were actively sabotaging what was left. I need to call Richard right away, I said, reaching for my phone. Wait! Monica grabbed my wrist. There's more. The Taylors. They're not as financially secure as everyone thinks. The firm has been losing clients. That big class action case they took last year, they lost. Badly. I froze. How badly? Enough. That they've been looking for investors. Enough that they've taken out loans against almost everything they own. Monica's eyes locked with mine. Mrs. Taylor, they need your business. They're desperate for it. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The revelation hit me like a thunderbolt. All these years, the Taylors had looked down on me, treated me like I wasn't good enough for their precious son. And now they were drowning in debt while the business Marcus and I built was thriving. Do you know who holds their debt? I asked, an idea forming. Wild and dangerous, but possibly perfect. Monica shook her head. No, but I can find out. I handed her my card, my real one, not the one with both our names on it. Text me when you know, and Monica, be careful. She nodded once, then hurried away, glancing over her shoulder. I stood there in the cold park, mind racing. I'd been operating on grief and shock, but now I had clarity and anger. White-hot anger that burned away the fog of despair. Back at our house, my house, regardless of what that forged will said, I went straight to Marcus's office. Unlike the pristine, minimalist space he kept at our company headquarters, his home, office was comfortably cluttered, filled with mementos and photos. This was the real Marcus, not the polished professional the outside world saw. I walked through Riverside Park with my guard up, scanning every face I passed. Autumn leaves crunched beneath my boots as a cold wind whipped through my thin jacket. I'd been so distracted I'd forgotten to dress properly, but honestly, the cold was the least of my worries. My mind kept replaying that will reading, the smug satisfaction on Vivian's face, the calculated cruelty in Gerald's voice. The Taylors had always viewed me as an outsider, but this was something else entirely. This was theft, pure and simple. Mrs. Taylor? I turned to see a young woman with copper hair and anxious eyes sitting on a bench nearby. She couldn't have been more than 25, clutching a leather messenger bag like it contained state secrets. I'm Monica, she said, standing quickly. Thank you for coming. I don't understand, I said, keeping my distance. My husband didn't have an assistant, named Monica. He didn't work with Wellington and Partners. I know. She glanced around nervously. I don't actually work for Wellington. I worked, for your husband's father at Taylor & Associates. I've been Mr. Taylor Sr.'s paralegal for the past year. My skin prickled with goosebumps that had nothing to do with the cold. Why did you lie? Because they monitor my phone. Monica opened her bag and pulled out a manila envelope. 2 months ago, I was asked to witness a signature. It was your husband's will. Except, she swallowed hard. It wasn't your husband signing it. The world tilted on its axis. What are you saying? It was his cousin, Elliot. They look similar enough. Same height, similar build. He wore a hat, kept his head down. I wouldn't have known, except I saw them talking afterward in Mr. Taylor's office. They were laughing. I felt physically ill. You're telling me they forged my husband's signature on a fake will? Monica nodded, her face pale. I didn't know what it was at the time. They just told me to witness a signature. But after I heard about your husband's passing, and then overheard Mr. Taylor talking about the will reading today." She pushed the envelope toward me. "This is a copy of what I witnessed, and this," she pulled out her phone, "is a video I took of Elliot leaving the office that day." On her phone screen, I watched a man who, at a glance, could pass for Marcus walking out of an office building. But it wasn't my husband. The walk was wrong. The shoulders too stiff. Anyone who truly knew Marcus would spot the difference immediately. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Because it's wrong," Monica whispered. "And because they're planning to force you to sign over the business tomorrow. They already have the paperwork drawn up." "Force me how?" "They have something on you, Mrs. Taylor, or they think they do. I've been ordered to compile a file. Old social media posts, financial records, interviews with former classmates, anything they can use to pressure you." A cold laugh escaped my lips. "They won't find anything. I've got nothing to hide." Monica looked doubtful. "Mr. Taylor seems very confident." Of course he was. Gerald Taylor hadn't built a legal empire by being unprepared. He was meticulous, ruthless, and patient, qualities that had made him both feared and respected in legal circles. Qualities he'd wanted his son to inherit. But Marcus had been different, kinder, more principled. It was what I'd loved about him from the moment we met in that economics class at Northwestern. "Why are you risking your job to help me?" I asked. "Monica." She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "My mom raised me alone after my dad walked out. When he died, his new family tried to erase her, tried to pretend she never existed. 20 years together, gone." Her voice hardened. "I won't be part of doing that to someone else." I clutched the envelope like a lifeline. "Thank you." "There's something else," Monica said, her voice dropping even lower. "The firm represents Jackson Capital." "The investment firm?" She nodded. "They're your biggest client, right? Worth almost half your business?" My stomach dropped. Marcus and I had worked for years to land Jackson Capital. They were notoriously loyal to their financial advisors, had been with their previous firm for nearly 2 decades before we convinced them to switch to us. "The Taylors have already spoken with Richard Jackson," Monica continued. "They're convincing him that you can't handle the account without Marcus, that the firm is falling apart without him." The pieces suddenly clicked into place. They weren't just trying to steal what Marcus and I had built. They were actively sabotaging what was left. "I need to call Richard right away," I said, reaching for my phone. "Wait!" Monica grabbed my wrist. "There's more. The Taylors. They're not as financially secure as everyone thinks. The firm has been losing clients. That big class action case they took last year, they lost. Badly." I froze. "How badly?" "Enough that they've been looking for investors. Enough that they've taken out loans against almost everything they own." Monica's eyes locked with mine. "Mrs. Taylor, they need your business. They're desperate for it." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The revelation hit me like a thunderbolt. All these years, the Taylors had looked down on me, treated me like I wasn't good enough for their precious son. And now they were drowning in debt while the business Marcus and I built was thriving. "Do you know who holds their debt?" I asked, an idea forming. Wild and dangerous, but possibly perfect. Monica shook her head. "No, but I can find out." I handed her my card, my real one, not the one with both our names on it. "Text me when you know, and Monica, be careful." She nodded once, then hurried away, glancing over her shoulder. I stood there in the cold park, mind racing. I'd been operating on grief and shock, but now I had clarity and anger. white-hot anger that burned away the fog of despair. Back at our house, my house, regardless of what that forged will said, I went straight to Marcus's office. Unlike the pristine, minimalist space he kept at our company headquarters, his home, office was comfortably cluttered, filled with mementos and photos. This was the real Marcus, not the polished professional the outside world saw. I ran my fingers along his bookshelf, stopping at the weathered copy of The Art of War I'd given him on our 5th anniversary. Marcus had laughed when he opened it. "Planning for battle, Mrs. Taylor?" he'd asked, pulling me close. "Know your enemy," I'd whispered in his ear, "and their weaknesses." Little did I know how prophetic those words would be. I pulled the book from the shelf and opened it to the middle, where I knew Marcus kept our most important documents: passwords, account, numbers, the names of our anonymous LLC holdings, things we never stored digitally. Among them was a handwritten list: clients, shadow portfolio. The shadow portfolio had been our secret project for the past 3 years, while our main business served the ultra-wealthy, people like Richard. Jackson, we'd also built a separate client roster of small businesses and individuals who couldn't afford premium financial services. We charged them minimal fees, sometimes nothing at all. Marcus called it paying it forward. I called it hedging our bets. These clients weren't flashy or prestigious. They wouldn't impress the Taylors. But collectively, they represented about 30% of our actual business, a fact we'd kept quiet even from our own employees. The Taylors thought they knew our business. They'd seen the splashy headlines when we landed Jackson Capital. What they didn't know was how much of our portfolio flew under the radar. I pulled out my laptop and began making calls, starting with our attorney, our real attorney, Diane Zhang, who'd been with us from the beginning. "They did what?" Diane's voice exploded through the speaker. "Zara, that's blatantly illegal. We can have this thrown out in—" "Wait," I interrupted. "Before we go nuclear, I want to look at all our options. What we know, what we don't know. I need time." "Time for what?" Diane asked, suspicion coloring her voice. She knew me too well to understand exactly what game the Taylors are playing and how to beat them at it. After hanging up with Diane, I called the next person on my list, Samuel Wade, our company's chief investment officer and Marcus's closest friend outside of me. "I've been trying to reach you," Sam said the moment he picked up. "Zara, there are rumors flying everywhere. Someone from Taylor and Associates showed up at the office claiming they have authority to audit our books. Did you let them in?" "Hell no. But they're coming back tomorrow with paperwork. What's going on?" I filled him in quickly, anger-making, my words sharp and precise. "Those snakes," Sam hissed when I finished. "Marcus always said his father was ruthless, but this is beyond the pale." "I need your help, Sam," I said. "We need to secure everything. Change passwords, lock down accounts, contact key clients. And I need you to do it quietly." "Consider it done." "What about Jackson Capital?" I hesitated. "Let me handle Richard personally. In the meantime, prepare contingency plans as if we might lose them." "You think they'll jump ship?" "I think the Taylors are playing chess while we're still setting up the board," I replied. "And I'm done being 3 moves behind." After ending the call with Sam, I sat in Marcus's chair, surrounded by the remnants of his life. Our life. The grief threatened to overwhelm me again, rising like a tidal wave. But beneath it was something harder, something forged in the fire of betrayal, determination. My phone buzzed with a text from Monica. "Found it. The debt. You're not going to believe who holds it." The name she sent made me sit up straight, a startled laugh escaping my lips. Sometimes the universe has a twisted sense of humor. And sometimes it hands you exactly the weapon you need at exactly the right moment. Because the company that held the majority of the Taylors' debt? It was one of our shadow portfolio clients. And better yet, it was an acquisition Marcus and I had made anonymously 3 years ago through one of our LLCs. In other words, I owned the Taylor's debt. Every last cent of it. They just didn't know it yet. I barely slept that night. The revelation about the Taylor's debt kept my mind racing with possibilities. By dawn, I'd formulated a plan. Risky, but potentially devastating if executed correctly. The mirror reflected a woman I hardly recognized. Dark, circles under bloodshot eyes, hair pulled back in a severe bun. I applied my makeup with precision, choosing a deep burgundy lipstick Marcus had always said made me look like a CEO about to fire the entire board. Today, that's exactly the energy I needed. When I arrived at our office building, the security guard did a double take. "Mrs. Taylor," he said, surprise evident in his voice. "We didn't expect to see you back so soon after my husband's death?" I finished for him, signing the logbook with a steady hand. "Grief doesn't pay the bills, Jerome. Neither does letting vultures circle what we built." The elevator ride to the 18th floor gave me a moment to center myself. My hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the caffeine overdose and simmering rage I'd been nursing since yesterday. The office fell silent as I strode through the main doors. Employees froze mid-conversation, coffee mugs suspended halfway to lips. I couldn't blame them. The last time they'd seen me was at Marcus's funeral, barely holding myself together as I accepted their condolences. Sam appeared at my side, his normally jovial face serious. "They're in the conference room," he murmured. "All three of them, plus their lawyer." "Let them wait," I replied, heading straight for my office. 10 more minutes won't kill them. My office remained exactly as I'd left it 2 weeks ago, the day Marcus died. The photo of us in Santorini still faced my desk, his smile radiant against the backdrop of white buildings and blue sea. I touched my fingers to my lips, then to his face in the photo. "Watch me," I whispered. I unlocked my desk drawer and removed a slim file folder labeled Contingency Plans. Marcus had teased me about my obsession with backup strategies. "Always preparing for the worst-case scenario," he'd laugh. "That's my girl." The worst-case scenario had arrived, just not in any way we'd anticipated. My intercom buzzed. "Mrs. Taylor?" My assistant's voice was hesitant. "Mr. Taylor, your father-in-law, is asking if you're ready for them." 5 more minutes, Jessica," I replied. "And could you bring in the Kingston file? The complete version." "The complete version?" Jessica repeated, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Are you sure?" "Very." The Kingston file contained everything. We knew about Advantage Holdings, the shell company Marcus and I had created to acquire distressed debt, including the Taylor's loans. When I finally entered the conference room, I made sure to stand tall, shoulders back, chin up. The Taylors were arranged on one side of the table like a tribunal, Gerald at the center, Vivian and Imani flanking him. Their lawyer, a nervous-looking man I'd never seen before, sat slightly apart. "Finally decided to join us?" Gerald's voice dripped with condescension. "We've been waiting almost half an hour." "My apologies," I said, not meaning a word of it. "Running a successful business takes time. Something you'd know if yours wasn't hemorrhaging clients." The barb landed. Gerald's face flushed, while Vivian's mouth tightened to a thin line. "Let's not waste time on pleasantries." Gerald recovered quickly. "We're here to discuss the transfer of control. Marcus's will was quite clear." "Was it?" I interrupted, sliding into the chair at the head of the table. "Clear like crystal? Or clear like mud? Because forgery tends to muddy things considerably." The room went silent. The Taylor's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. "That's a serious accusation," he said finally. "It is," I agreed. "Almost as serious as fraud, witness tampering, and conspiracy." I opened a folder and slid copies of Monica's evidence across the table. "Your paralegal was very helpful. She has excellent video skills." Gerald didn't even glance at the papers. "A desperate play from a desperate woman," That proves nothing. Maybe not on its own, I conceded. But combined with Marcus's actual will, filed with our attorney and notarized twice, plus witness testimony and handwriting analysis? I shrugged. I'd say you're in a precarious position, counselor. Imani leaned forward, eyes narrowed. You think you can threaten us? The courts move slowly, Zara. Very slowly. By the time this would see the inside of a courtroom, we'll have liquidated everything. You'll get your pittance and nothing more. And what about your reputation? I asked softly. Taylor and Associates, caught in a clumsy forgery scheme to defraud a widow? I wonder what your remaining clients would think about that. You wouldn't dare, Vivian hissed. You'd be destroying Marcus's family name. You stopped being Marcus's family the day you disowned him for marrying me, I said, my voice steady despite the fury coursing through me. 15 years, and not once did you try to mend that bridge. Not when we struggled, not when we succeeded, not even when he reached out after your heart scare 2 years ago, Gerald. The older man had the decency to look away. But that's ancient history, I continued, opening another folder. Let's talk about more recent concerns, like the $17.3 million in loans Taylor and Associates has taken out in the past 18 months. Loans that are, as of this morning, in default. Gerald's face went from flushed to ashen in seconds. How do you know about those? I smiled thinly. I know because I own them. The silence that followed was absolute. I could practically hear the gears turning in Gerald's legal mind, calculating angles, evaluating leverage, looking for escape routes. That's impossible, he finally said, but there was a tremor in his voice. Is it? 3 years ago, Marcus and I established a private equity firm called Advantage Holdings through an LLC. Very quiet, very exclusive. We specialize in acquiring distressed debt from overextended businesses. I slid another document across the table. Particularly businesses owned by people who lack, what was the word you used at our wedding, Vivian? Integrity. Vivian looked like she'd been slapped. Gerald snatched the paper and began reading, his face growing darker with each line. Imani leaned over his shoulder. This has to be a bluff, she insisted. They couldn't possibly have the capital to buy out every loan your family has taken against the firm, your Hamptons property, and Gerald's prized art collection? I finished for her. You'd be surprised what 15 years of smart investing can accomplish, especially when you're not hemorrhaging money on first-class flights and $30,000 handbags. No deal. Gerald Taylor's voice crackled through my phone speaker at 4:59 p.m., 1 minute before my deadline. I sat alone in Marcus's home office, stunned into momentary silence. Excuse me? I finally managed, my fingers tightening around the phone. We reject your offer, Gerald continued, his voice regaining that smug superiority I'd come to despise. Both options. We've found a third way. The confidence in his tone sent ice through my veins. I'd been so certain they had no choice but to accept my terms. There is no third option, Gerald. There's always another option when you have the right connections. The smile in his voice was audible. Check your email. I put him on speaker and opened my laptop, clicking on the new message from Taylor and Associates. The attachment was a court order, an emergency injunction freezing all assets of Advantage Holdings pending investigation. Judge Martin Friedland, Gerald explained unnecessarily. Golfing buddy of mine for 20 years. He was quite concerned when I told him my daughter-in-law was attempting to extort our family in our time of grief. My mind raced. An injunction was temporary, but it could tie things up for weeks, maybe months. Time the Taylors would use to move assets, hide money, and undermine my position. This doesn't change the facts, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. The will is still forged. I still own your debt. About that forged will claim? Gerald's voice dropped to a conspirator's whisper. Monica Wilson has just signed an affidavit stating she witnessed no such thing and that you attempted to bribe her to say otherwise. Poor girl was quite distraught when she came to us, afraid of losing her job if she didn't go along with your scheme. My stomach lurched. You threatened her. I counseled an employee who was being coerced. As for your ownership of our debt, well, that's now in question too, isn't it? If you fraudulently attempted to take control of our family business, who's to say you didn't commit fraud with Advantage Holdings as well? I closed my eyes, trying to think. They'd moved faster than I anticipated, using connections I hadn't factored into my calculations. This wasn't just about money anymore. They were coming after my reputation, my freedom. You won't get away with this, I said, the words sounding hollow even to my own ears. I think we already have. Now, shall we discuss a more reasonable arrangement? Say, you walk away with the $25,000 specified in Marcus's will, and we forget. This unfortunate episode of temporary insanity brought on by your grief? The condescension in his voice reignited my anger. I'll see you in court. Looking forward to it. Gerald's voice hardened. Unlike you, we can afford to fight for years. How long can your business survive with its reputation in tatters? How many clients will stay when they hear the widow Taylor has gone off the deep end, making wild accusations against her husband's grieving family? I hung up without responding, my hands shaking with fury. The Taylors had counterpunched effectively, using their connections and privilege to neutralize my advantage. Worse, they'd turned Monica, my only witness to their fraud. My phone buzzed with a text from Sam. Jackson Capital is wavering. Richard wants to meet tomorrow. What's happening? Another text followed immediately. News vans outside the office. Someone leaked the family drama to Channel 7. Then another, this time from Jessica. Clients calling nonstop. What should I tell them? The Taylors weren't just fighting back. They were scorching the earth. I pressed my palms against my temples, trying to think clearly through the panic. Marcus would know what to do. Marcus always had a backup plan. I looked up at his bookshelves, my eyes landing on the framed photo taken on our 10th anniversary. Marcus and me on the porch of that little beachfront cottage in Martha's Vineyard. It had rained all week, ruining our plans for sailing and sunbathing. Instead, we'd stayed inside playing board games and making love while the storm raged outside. Sometimes the best move, Marcus had told me during one of our marathon chess matches, isn't the most aggressive one. Sometimes you have to sacrifice a piece to see the whole board more clearly. The memory sparked something. I opened my laptop again and pulled up the file on Advantage Holdings acquisitions. The Taylors' debt was significant but not our largest holding. That distinction belonged to Meridian Capital, a mid-sized investment firm that had overextended itself during last year's market downturn. Meridian's CEO, James Chen, had been desperate when we acquired their debt. He'd offered additional collateral, including something I'd almost forgotten about, a sealed file containing evidence of improper practices at several prominent law firms. Insurance, he'd called it. Protection against being blackballed in the industry. I'd thought it worthless at the time, just the desperate flailing of a man watching his company implode. But now, I picked up my phone and dialed Chen's private number. Zara. He answered on the first ring, sounding surprised. I didn't expect to hear from you so soon after. I need that file, I interrupted. The insurance policy. Does it include anything on Taylor and Associates? A pause. It might. Why? I need it. Tonight. Another pause, longer this time. Those files could destroy a lot of careers, Zara, including mine if anyone finds out I compiled them. James, you owe me. Your company still exists because I gave you terms you could live with. I'm calling in that debt. He sighed. Come by my place at 10. I'll have everything ready. I hung up and immediately called Diane. My attorney picked up on the third ring, her voice muffled by background noise. I'm at the courthouse. she said before I could speak. Just filed our emergency counter motion to the injunction. The hearing is set for Monday morning. We might have something stronger by then, I told her. How's your appetite for getting your hands dirty? What do you mean? I mean, the Taylors think they're playing hardball, but they don't know what hardball really is. Not yet. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. James Chen lived in a sleek downtown penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. When I arrived, his expression was grim as he handed me a USB drive. Everything's there. Emails, financial records, recorded. Conversations, Taylor and Associates is folder 13. He poured himself a generous glass of scotch. Whatever they did to you must be pretty bad for you to go nuclear. They're trying to steal everything Marcus and I built, I said simply, while calling my husband's memory a liar. He nodded once, understanding flickering in his eyes. Folder 13 also contains some interesting connections between Judge Friedland and the Taylors, connections that go beyond golf buddies. I raised an eyebrow. Shared investments in developments that mysteriously got approved despite environmental concerns. Cases assigned to Friedland where the Taylors' clients got favorable judgments against all odds. James sipped his scotch. The kind of connections that would interest the Judicial Ethics Committee. The USB drive felt impossibly heavy in my hand. This could disbar Gerald, among others. James looked out at the city lights. Be careful, Zara. Men like Gerald Taylor don't go down easily, and they rarely go down alone. I left James's penthouse with the USB drive secured in my purse, my mind racing with possibilities. The information gave me leverage, but using it would start a war I couldn't easily walk back from. Lives would be destroyed, not just Gerald's, but possibly Vivian's and Amani's too. Innocent employees at the firm would be collateral damage. Was I prepared to go that far? I drove aimlessly, eventually finding myself outside our company headquarters. The building was dark except for a single light on our floor. Someone was working late. Taking the elevator up, I found Monica sitting at her desk in the otherwise empty office, her eyes red-rimmed from crying. She jumped when she saw me. Mrs. Taylor, Save it, I cut her off, anger surging. I know what you did, what they made you do. Her face crumpled. They said they'd fire me and blacklist me across the city if I didn't sign. I can't lose this job. My mom's medical bills. The rage I'd been nursing softened slightly. What exactly did they threaten you with? Mr. Taylor said he'd make sure I never worked in finance again, that he'd tell everyone I stole confidential documents. Her hands twisted in her lap. Then he offered me a promotion if I signed the affidavit. Executive assistant position at twice my current salary. Carrot and stick, I murmured. Gerald's standard approach. I'm so sorry, Monica whispered. I was going to call you tomorrow to warn you. It's not too late to fix this, I said, making a decision. You can recant your affidavit. Tell the truth. She shook her head frantically. They'll destroy me. Not if they're too busy saving themselves. I pulled out my phone and played a recording, one of the files from Chen's USB that I'd already reviewed. Gerald Taylor's voice filled the room, discussing how to conceal evidence in a corporate fraud case. Monica's eyes widened. Is that just the tip of the iceberg? I have enough to end Taylor and Associates, Gerald, Vivian, all of them. I stopped the recording. But I'd rather not have to use it. What do you want from me? The truth. On record. A new affidavit stating exactly what you saw, what Gerald asked you to do, and the threats he made to force your compliance. She hesitated, weighing her options. And if I do this, what happens to me? You'll have a job here for as long as you want one, and a bonus that will cover your mother's medical bills for the next year. I held her gaze. I protect people who are loyal to me, Monica. Just ask anyone who's worked with me and Marcus. Something in my tone must have convinced her. She nodded slowly. I'll do it. But not just for the money or the job. Then why? Because what they're doing to you is wrong. And because... She glanced down at her desk, where a small photo frame held a picture of an older woman. Her mother, I assumed. Because my mom raised me to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I felt a pang of recognition. It was exactly the kind of thing Marcus would say. The next morning, I arrived at Richard Jackson's office armed with 2 folders, one containing Monica's new affidavit, sworn and notarized. At midnight, by a notary friend of Diane's who'd been only too happy to help stick it to Gerald Taylor, as she'd put it. The other contained selected documents from Chen's USB drive, nothing that would blow up the entire legal community, but enough to make the Taylors think twice. Richard Jackson was a shrewd man in his 60s who'd built his fortune through equal parts brilliant investing and ruthless negotiation. He valued loyalty above all else, which was why the Taylors' attempt to poach his account had been not just a business move, but a personal betrayal. Quite a storm you've kicked up, he said, by way of greeting, gesturing for me to sit. The Taylors called yesterday, said you were unstable, making wild accusations, said I should move my accounts before you ran the company into the ground. I placed Monica's affidavit on his desk. They forged my husband's will to steal our company. When that didn't work, they tried to destroy my reputation. Richard read the document slowly, his expression giving nothing away. When he finished, he looked up at me with those penetrating eyes that had made countless business rivals squirm. Marcus always said you were the backbone of your operation, he said finally. Said you had nerves of steel beneath that pleasant demeanor. Marcus exaggerated, I replied with a small smile. I'm just a woman protecting what we built together. Richard nodded, then pointed to the second folder I'd placed on his desk. And that? Insurance, I said simply. Information the Taylors wouldn't want made public. I'm hoping I won't need to use it, Richard chuckled. Backbone and teeth. I'm keeping my money right where it is, Mrs. Taylor, and I'll be making some calls to ensure others do the same. Relief flooded through me. Thank you, Richard. Don't. Thank me. This is purely self-interest. I recognize a fighter when I see one, and I prefer having fighters manage my money. He leaned back in his chair. What's your next move with the Taylors? I stood, gathering my folders. I'm going to offer them one last chance to do the right thing. After that, it's out of my hands. As I left Richard's office, my phone buzzed with a text from Diane. Judge Friedland has recused himself from our case. New judge appointed, Catherine Wong. I smiled. Catherine Wong was known for her strict ethical standards and zero tolerance for legal games. The playing field was leveling. Another text came through, this one from an unknown number. Ms. Okafor, this is Elliot Taylor. We need to talk about my uncle's plans, and about what really happened with Marcus's will. I can help you. Elliot, the cousin who had impersonated Marcus, the one who had helped forge the will. Why would he reach out now? Was it a trap? Or was the Taylor family facade beginning to crack? I typed back, when and where? His response came almost immediately. Tonight, 8 p.m. The boathouse at Lakeside Park. Come alone. I have proof of everything. I stared at the message, instinct warning me to be cautious. But if Elliot was willing to turn on his family, it could end this fight immediately. Sometimes you had to risk a piece to win the game. I'll be there, I replied, then added, if this is a setup, you should know I've given my attorney instructions to release everything I have on your family if anything happens to me. 3 dots appeared as he typed, disappeared, then appeared, again. Finally, it's not a setup. I owe Marcus this much, and more. I tucked my phone away, mind already planning for tonight's meeting. Whatever Elliot had to say, whatever proof he claimed to have, I would be ready. The Taylors had underestimated me from the beginning, seeing only what they wanted to see. A grieving widow they could easily manipulate and discard. But I was done. Being underestimated. Done playing defense. Tonight, I would hear what Elliot had to say. And tomorrow, one way or another, this war would end. Lakeside Park was deserted at 7:45 p.m., the November chill keeping even the most dedicated joggers at home. I parked my car at the far end of the lot, giving myself a clear view of anyone arriving or leaving. Marcus's voice echoed in my head. One of his endless safety lectures whenever I traveled alone for business. Always know your exits, Z. I'd rolled my eyes then. Not anymore. The boathouse loomed dark against the water, its weathered wooden structure creating elongated shadows in the moonlight. I checked my phone. No new messages from Elliot, and no missed calls from Diane, who I'd instructed to contact authorities if she didn't hear from me by 9:30. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out of my car, the lake wind immediately cutting through. My coat. I'd dressed practically. Dark jeans, sneakers, and a jacket with deep pockets where I kept pepper spray and a small recording device. My hair was pulled back tightly, and I wore no jewelry that could be grabbed or caught on something. I wasn't taking any chances. As I approached the boathouse, movement inside caught my eye, a flashlight beam sweeping across the interior. Someone was already here. Elliot, I called, stopping several feet from the entrance. The flashlight beam lowered, and a figure appeared in the doorway, tall and lean, with the same Taylor jawline as Marcus, but none of his warmth. Ms. Okafor, Elliot said, his voice tight. Thank you for coming. You said you have proof, I replied, staying where I was. About the will. He nodded, glancing nervously over his shoulder at the empty park behind me. Can we talk inside? I don't want to be seen. I prefer where I am, thanks. A flash of irritation crossed his face before he composed himself. Fair enough. Though I'm not the one you should be worried about. And who should I be worried about? Imani. He spat the name like it tasted bitter. This was all her idea. The forged will, the smear campaign against you. All of it. I kept my expression neutral despite my surprise. Gerald had always seemed the driving force behind the family's machinations. Why would Imani target me? Elliot's laugh was brittle. Because you have everything she wanted. The successful business, the marriage to Marcus, the respect of the financial community. He pulled out a pack of cigarettes, lit one with shaking hands. Imani was the golden child until Marcus broke away from the family business. Then suddenly she wasn't enough. No matter what she achieved, it was never equal to what Marcus built with you. The revelation shifted something in my understanding. I'd always viewed Imani's hostility as an extension of her parents' disapproval. I'd never considered that she might harbor her own separate resentment. That doesn't explain why you're turning on your family now, I said. Elliot took a long drag of his cigarette, the ember glowing bright in the darkness. Marcus saved my life 3 years ago. Did you know that? I shook my head. Marcus had never mentioned anything about Elliot. I got in deep with some loan sharks, gambling debts. His face tightened with the memory. They were going to break. More than my legs. Marcus paid them off, $500,000, and made me promise not to tell anyone in the family. Said Gerald would use it against me forever. That sounds like Marcus, I said softly. He was the only decent one of us. Elliot stared out at the lake. When Imani came to me with this scheme to impersonate him for the will signing, I agreed, because I was afraid of her. But I never thought... His voice broke. I never thought he'd die. It was supposed to be insurance, that's all. A backup plan they'd probably never use. But then he did die. I finished for him. And Imani saw her. Chance. Elliot reached into his jacket and pulled out a phone. I recorded her discussing the plan with my uncle. Twice. And I kept copies of the drafts of the forged will. There were 3 versions before they settled on the final wording. He held out the phone, but I didn't move to take it. Why not go directly to the police with this? I asked. Because I'm implicated too. I'm on camera signing Marcus's name. Fear flashed across his face. I need immunity, or a deal, or something. That's where you come in. So there it was. Elliot wasn't turning on his family out of guilt or loyalty to Marcus's memory. He was saving himself. I can talk to my attorney, I said carefully, but I'll need those recordings first. He hesitated, then held out the phone again. There's something else you should know. About Marcus. My body tensed. What about him? He came to see Gerald a week before he died. They argued. I don't know what about, but Marcus left looking shaken. The information hit me like a physical blow. Marcus had never mentioned visiting his father. We told each other everything, or so I'd thought. You're lying. I have no reason to lie about that. Elliot's voice was strangely gentle. Check his calendar for last Monday. He would have gone to the firm around 2 p.m. I struggled to keep my face impassive despite the turmoil inside. What else had Marcus kept from me? As I reached for Elliot's phone, headlights swept across the parking lot. A black SUV pulled in, moving too fast for a casual park visitor. Elliot's eyes widened. That's Imani's car. She must have followed me. He thrust the phone into my hand. Take it. Everything's there. Password is Marcus's birthday. The SUV screeched to a halt, and 2 doors slammed. Go, Elliot urged. There's a path behind the boathouse that connects to the street on the other side of the park. I'll stall them. I hesitated only a second before taking off, circling around the back of the boathouse just as voices called out Elliot's name. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but the anger was unmistakable. The path was barely visible in the darkness, tree roots threatening to trip me with every step. I clutched Elliot's phone tightly, using my own as a flashlight to navigate the winding trail. Behind me, voices rose in argument, then abruptly cut off. I ran faster. When I reached the street on the far side of the park, I hailed the first taxi. I saw giving the driver Sam's address instead of my own. If Imani had found Elliot, she might come looking for me next. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Sam opened his door with a baseball bat in hand, relaxing only when he saw it was me. Jesus, Zara, you scared the hell out of me. Why didn't you call first? Long story, I said, pushing past him into his apartment. I need your laptop. He raised an eyebrow but didn't. Questioned me further, retrieving his MacBook from the coffee table. I took it to his kitchen counter, plugging in Elliot's phone and entering Marcus's birthday when prompted. Is that? Sam began, looking over my shoulder. Evidence, I said, opening the audio files stored on the device. For the next hour, we listened to Imani Taylor methodically planning the destruction of my life. Her voice was calm, almost bored, as she instructed Elliot on how to forge Marcus's signature, how to adjust his posture to match Marcus's distinctive slouch, where to the signing. Remember, she told Elliot in one recording, this is just a contingency. If Marcus comes around about the Jackson Capital collaboration, we destroy this will and no one ever knows. And if he doesn't? Elliot's voice asked. Imani's laugh was cold. Then we have options. The collaboration was news to me. I'd never heard Marcus mention anything about working with Taylor and Associates on the Jackson account. More disturbing were the drafted versions of the fake will letter, each one more calculated than the last. The first draft had been almost conciliatory, suggesting Marcus was conflicted about his decision. By the third draft, it painted me as a manipulative gold digger who had driven a wedge between Marcus and his family. They were planning this for months, Sam said, his face pale with anger. Even before Marcus died. But why? I shook my head, struggling to make sense of it. The business was already successful. Why would Marcus need a collaboration with Taylor and Associates? Maybe he didn't, Sam suggested. Maybe they needed him. The possibility resonated with what Monica had told me about the Taylors' financial troubles. Perhaps Gerald had wanted to use Marcus's success to prop up his failing firm. When Marcus refused, they'd created an insurance policy, the fake will. Then Marcus had died unexpectedly, giving them an opportunity they hadn't anticipated. "There's more," I said, showing Sam the text messages between Imani and Elliot, dated just 3 days before Marcus's death. Imani: "Did you talk to him again?" Elliot: "Yes. Still won't budge on the partnership idea." Imani: "Dad's going to lose it. We need that merger." Elliot: "What do you expect me to do?" He's made up his mind. Imani: "Then we move to Plan B. Meet me tomorrow. Don't tell anyone." "Plan B," Sam repeated, his expression darkening. "Zara, you don't think—" I couldn't bring myself to say it. Couldn't allow my mind to go where Sam's clearly had. "Marcus had a heart attack," I said firmly. "The doctors confirmed it." Sam looked like he wanted to say more, but thought better of it. "What now? We take this to the police?" "First, I need to check something." I pulled out my own phone and opened my calendar app, scrolling back to the previous month. Marcus and I had shared our calendars, a necessity given our busy schedules. There it was, a blank space in Marcus's calendar on Monday between 1:30 and 3 p.m. He'd told me he was meeting with a prospective client, but there was no name, no location. Just an empty block of time that could very well have been spent at his father's office. What else had he kept from me? My phone buzzed with a text from Diane. "Judge Wong granted our emergency hearing for tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Be ready to present all evidence." Then another text, this one from an unknown number. Elliot gave, "You the phone. Smart, but incomplete. There's more to the story. Check your husband's personal email. Password is the name of the hotel where you spent your honeymoon. Put's the room number. He wasn't as perfect as you think." Imani. Somehow she'd gotten my number, and she was playing mind games. "What is it?" Sam asked, noticing my expression. I showed him the text. "It's a trap," he said immediately. "She's trying to get in your head before the hearing. Don't engage." He was probably right. And yet, Marcus's personal email, I murmured. Not our shared one. "Zara, don't do this to yourself," Sam warned. "Whatever she's implying, it's a manipulation tactic." But I was already opening the laptop's browser, navigating to Marcus's personal Gmail account, the one he used mainly for subscriptions and alumni communications. I hesitated at the password screen, then typed in Santina Resort 609. The inbox loaded. "I shouldn't be doing this," I said, even as my eyes scanned the email list. "This is an invasion of his privacy." "Then close it," Sam said gently. I was about to do just that when a name caught my eye. Gerald Taylor. 3 emails from the past month, the most recent just days before Marcus died. With a sick feeling in my stomach, I clicked on the first one. From Gerald Taylor, 2. Marcus Taylor. Subject: Reconsider. "Marcus, your stubbornness is putting the entire family at risk. The merger with your firm would solve everyone's problems. Your mother is distressed by your continued refusal even to discuss the matter. If not for me, then do it for her. This isn't about Zara. This is about family legacy. Gerald Taylor, Senior Partner, Taylor and Associates." I opened the next email, from Gerald Taylor to Marcus Taylor. Subject: Reconsider. The situation has become critical. The investors are breathing down my neck. Without an infusion of capital or a significant new client base, the firm faces bankruptcy by year-end. I'm not too proud to beg. This is my life's work at stake. Dad, the final email, sent just 2 days before Marcus died. From Marcus Taylor. Gerald Taylor. Subject, my decision. I've considered your proposal and discussed it with Sam. I'll meet with you Wednesday to discuss terms, but only if you agree to my conditions. Zara remains CEO of our combined venture too. No Taylor family member has decision-making authority over our client portfolios. Complete financial transparency going forward. I'm doing this for Mom, not for you. And if at any point you attempt to sideline or undermine Zara, the deal is off. Marcus Taylor CEO, Taylor and Okafor. Financial services, I sat back, my mind reeling. Marcus had been planning to merge our company with his father's firm, without telling. Me. Sam, I said slowly. Did Marcus discuss a merger with Taylor and Associates with you? Sam's face went blank with shock. What? No. Never. He claims in this email that he did. I turned the screen toward him. Sam read the email, his confusion evident. Zara, I swear he never mentioned anything about this to me. Not once. I believed him, which meant Marcus had lied. To me, to his father, or to both of us. My phone buzzed again with another text from Imani. Now you know. He was betraying you to save us. The great Marcus Taylor, torn between his wife and his family. Tragic, isn't it? See you in court tomorrow. I set the phone down carefully, fighting the wave of hurt and confusion threatening to overwhelm me. Had Marcus really been planning to go behind my back on something this significant? It seemed impossible. We made all major decisions together, always. Yet the evidence was right in front of me. This doesn't change anything about the forged will, Sam said firmly. They still committed fraud. No, I agreed, but it changes everything about how I thought my marriage worked. I forwarded the emails to myself and logged out of Marcus's account, feeling like an intruder in my husband's private life. Tomorrow, I would present Elliot's evidence to Judge Wong. I would fight for what was rightfully mine. But tonight, I had to confront a more painful truth. The man I'd loved, the man I'd built a life with, had been keeping secrets from me. Ones. As I left Sam's apartment, my phone rang. An unknown number. Mrs. Taylor, a man's voice said when I answered. This is Detective Collins, Chicago PD. I'm afraid there's been an incident involving Elliot Taylor. My grip tightened on the B phone. What kind of incident? He was found unconscious in Lakeside Park about an hour ago. Severe head trauma. He's been taken to Mercy Hospital in critical condition. The world seemed to tilt beneath my feet. Was he attacked? That's what we're trying to determine. His wallet and phone were missing, suggesting a robbery. But given the circumstances and his family connections, we're exploring all possibilities. His family connections. The detective knew exactly who Elliot was. I need to ask where you were this evening, Mrs. Taylor. The question shouldn't have surprised me, but it did. Am I a suspect? We're speaking with anyone who might have information, he replied smoothly. Several witnesses saw you meeting with Mr. Taylor at the boathouse earlier tonight. Several witnesses, in a deserted park, at night, Imani. It had to be. I met with Elliot briefly, I confirmed. He gave me evidence of his family's attempt to defraud me with a forged will. Then a car arrived. I believe it was his cousin Imani, and I left through the back path. Elliot was fine when I last saw him. We'll need you to come in and make a formal statement tomorrow, the detective said, and bring this evidence you mentioned. I have a court hearing at 9 a.m., I told him. I can come afterward. 3 o'clock, he agreed. Don't leave town before then, Mrs. Taylor. After hanging up, I called Diane immediately, filling her in on everything. Elliot's evidence, Imani's texts, Marcus's secret emails, and now Elliot's attack. They're trying to set you up, Diane said, her voice hard with anger. Make it. Look like you assaulted Elliot to get his phone. Can they do that? There must have been security cameras in the park. Maybe, maybe not. But your meeting him secretly doesn't look good, and now with him unable to corroborate your story. She sighed heavily. We need to move fast. I'll see you at the courthouse at 8 a.m. We'll formulate our strategy before the hearing. I barely slept that night, my mind churning with questions about Marcus, about the Taylors, about how quickly life could unravel, revealing ugly truths beneath what I'd thought was solid ground. By morning, I had made a decision. No more reacting to the Taylors' moves. No more playing defense. It was time to end this, whatever the cost. Because the truth was, while I might have once owned the Taylors' debt, they now held something far more valuable hostage, my husband's legacy, and the truth about who he really was. The courthouse steps were already crawling with reporters when Diane and I arrived at 7:45 a.m. Someone had leaked details about our emergency hearing. No prizes for guessing who. The vultures descended the moment we stepped out of Diane's car. Microphones thrust in our faces, questions overlapping in a cacophony of manufactured concern. Mrs. Taylor, is it true you're contesting your husband's will? Did Marcus Taylor really cut you out of his estate? Sources say you've threatened the Taylor family. Any comment? Diane muscled us through the crowd with practiced efficiency, her arm firm around my shoulders. No comments at this time, she repeated, her voice clipped. Please respect my client's privacy. A bitter laugh almost escaped me. Privacy had become a quaint concept in the past week, like trust and certainty, luxuries I could no longer afford. Inside, the marble hallway offered temporary sanctuary. I smoothed my charcoal pencil skirt and adjusted my cream blouse. Battle. Armor of a different sort than yesterday's park excursion. Today's fight would happen under fluorescent lights and parliamentary procedure, but it would be no less vicious. You ready for this? Diane asked, studying my face. Ready as I'll ever be to find out my husband was planning to merge our company with his father's failing firm behind my back. The words tasted acidic. Diane squeezed my arm. We don't know that for certain. Those emails could be manipulated, a plant from Imani to throw you off kilter before the hearing. They came from his account. The password was something only I would... No. Tech-savvy people can work around passwords, and the Taylors are nothing if not resourceful. Diane's eyes narrowed as she spotted Gerald and Vivian Taylor entering the courthouse with their attorney. Speak of the devils. Gerald caught my eye across the hall, his expression unreadable. Vivian, however, made no attempt to hide her contempt, whispering something to their lawyer that made him glance nervously in my direction. Where's Imani? I murmured. Good question, Diane replied. She's the key player in Elliot's evidence. As if summoned by her name, Imani pushed through the courthouse doors, immaculately dressed in a navy suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly mortgage. Unlike her parents, she strode directly toward us, her stiletto heels clicking aggressively against the marble floor. Quite the performance last night, she said when she reached us. Her voice pitched low enough that only Diane and I could hear. Meeting Elliot in a deserted park. Very dramatic. Not as dramatic as whoever put him in the hospital, I replied, watching her face carefully. Not a flicker of surprise. Yes, I heard. Terrible business. Robbery, wasn't it? Was it? Her smile was razor thin. That's what the police believe. The police also know I met with Elliot before he was attacked, I said, and that he gave me evidence proving your family forged Marcus's will. For the briefest moment, uncertainty crossed Imani's features before her composure returned. Evidence? From a desperate gambling addict who'd say anything for money? I doubt that will hold much weight. We'll see what Judge Wong thinks. Imani stepped closer, the subtle scent of her expensive perfume invading my space. You still don't get it, do you? This was never about the will or the company or even the money. This is about legacy. Her voice dropped even lower. Marcus knew that. Why do you think he agreed to the merger? Before I could respond, the courtroom doors opened, and a clerk called our case number. Imani stepped back, her face resuming its public mask of dignified grief. "Showtime," she murmured, turning away. Diane held me back as the Taylors entered the courtroom. "Don't let her inside your head. That's their strategy. Keep you off balance, emotional. We have facts. We have evidence. Let's stick to that." I nodded, taking a deep breath. She was right. Whatever game Imani was playing, whatever secrets Marcus had kept, the immediate issue was the forged will. One battle at a time. Judge Catherine Wong ran her courtroom with military precision. In her mid-50s, with silver-streaked black hair pulled into a tight bun, she dispensed with pleasantries and went straight to business. "I've reviewed the filings from both parties," she said, her sharp eyes moving between us. "This is a hearing to determine whether an emergency injunction should be granted to prevent the execution of Marcus Taylor's purported will, pending a full investigation into its authenticity. Ms. Zhang, as the moving party, you may begin." Diane rose, her posture impeccable. "Your Honor, we have evidence that the will presented by the Taylor family is a forgery, created without Marcus Taylor's knowledge or consent. In fact, we have recorded proof of Imani Taylor instructing her cousin Elliot Taylor on how to impersonate Marcus during the will signing." Gerald's attorney jumped to his feet. "Objection, Your Honor. Any such recordings would have been obtained illegally and without consent. They were provided by Elliot Taylor himself," Diane countered, "who participated in the scheme and has now come forward as a whistleblower." Judge Wong frowned. "Where is Mr. Elliot Taylor? I don't see him listed as a witness today." "Unfortunately, Your Honor, Mr. Taylor was attacked last night after meeting with my client. He's currently in critical condition at Mercy Hospital." Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Judge Wong banged her gavel once. Silence. "Ms. Zhang, are you suggesting the attack on Mr. Taylor is connected to these proceedings?" "We are not speculating on the nature of the attack, Your Honor, but the timing is certainly suspicious. However, before he was attacked, Mr. Taylor provided my client with substantial evidence, including recordings and draft versions of the forged will. I watched the Taylors as Diane spoke. Gerald maintained his poker face, but Vivian's knuckles whitened around her designer handbag. Imani examined her manicure with studied nonchalance. "Your Honor," Gerald's attorney interjected, "the Taylor family categorically denies any allegations of forgery. The will was properly executed and witnessed according to state law. As for these alleged recordings, we have no way to verify their authenticity without Mr. Taylor present." "We've submitted the recordings for forensic analysis," Diane responded. "Preliminary results confirm the voices belong to Imani Taylor and Elliot Taylor." Judge Wong turned to the clerk. "Has this analysis been entered into evidence?" "Yes, Your Honor. Exhibit C in the plaintiff's filing." The judge reviewed the document, her expression giving nothing away. "Ms. Zhang, what relief are you seeking today?" "We ask the court to issue an emergency injunction preventing the execution of the contested will, to appoint a neutral third party to oversee Marcus Taylor's estate during these proceedings, and to order a full investigation into the circumstances surrounding the creation of this will." Judge Wong turned to Gerald's attorney. "Your response, counselor?" What followed was 30 minutes of legal jargon as Gerald's attorney argued procedural points and jurisdiction issues. Anything to avoid addressing the forgery allegations directly. I watched Judge Wong's face, trying to gauge her reaction, but her expression remained impassive throughout. Finally, she held up her hand to stop Gerald's attorney mid-sentence. "I've heard enough. Based on the evidence presented, I find sufficient cause to issue a temporary injunction preventing the execution of the contested will, pending a full hearing." She fixed Gerald with a stern look. "Furthermore, I'm ordering all parties to preserve any and all communications related to Marcus Taylor's will. Any destruction of evidence will be considered contempt of court." Relief flooded through me. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was a crucial first step. The Taylors couldn't liquidate our assets or take control of the business while the injunction was in place. Additionally, Judge Wong continued, "I'm troubled by the circumstances surrounding Elliot Taylor's attack. While this court has no jurisdiction over criminal matters, I'm requesting that the police investigation be expedited, given its potential relevance to these proceedings." She banged her gavel. "We're adjourned. Full hearing scheduled for 2 weeks from today." As we gathered our papers, Gerald approached our table, his attorney hovering nervously behind him. "This isn't over," he said quietly. "You're playing a dangerous game, Zara." "I didn't start this game," I replied. "You did, when you decided to forge my husband's will." "Marcus was coming back to the family," Gerald insisted, his voice low and urgent. He understood what was at stake. The merger was his idea. Before I could respond, Diane stepped between us. "My client has nothing further to say to you, Mr. Taylor. All communication should go through counsel from this point forward." Gerald's jaw tightened, but he nodded curtly and moved away, rejoining Vivian near the courtroom doors. Imani lingered behind, her eyes locked on mine with an intensity that was almost physical. 3 o'clock, she mouthed silently before following, her parents out. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. 3 o'clock, my appointment with Detective Collins about Elliot's attack. "How did Imani know about that?" "What was that about?" Diane asked, watching Imani's retreating figure. "I'm not sure," I said, though a cold dread was forming in my stomach. "But I think the Taylors might be setting me up to take the fall for Elliot's attack." "All the more reason to get ahead of this," Diane said firmly. "We should go to the police station now before your scheduled appointment. Tell them everything, including the evidence Elliot gave you." I nodded, gathering my purse. "And after that, I need to see Elliot at the hospital." "Is that wise?" "The police might see it as tampering with a witness." "He's unconscious, Diane, and he's the only person who knows exactly what happened last night." I lowered my voice. "Besides, if someone tried to kill him to keep him quiet, he might not be safe there." Diane didn't look convinced, but nodded reluctantly. "I'm coming with you, to both places." Outside the courthouse, the reporters had multiplied, surging forward as we emerged. This time, Gerald was holding court on the steps, Vivian and Imani flanking him like royal consorts. "Confident that when all the facts come to light, my son's true wishes will be respected," he was saying, his voice carrying easily through the morning air. Marcus was returning to the family fold, planning to merge our firms before his untimely death. Unfortunately, some parties seem unwilling to accept that reality. The calculated performance made my blood boil. I started toward him, but Diane caught my arm. "Not here. Not now," she warned. "That's exactly what they want. You losing your cool on camera." She was right, of course. But standing there, watching Gerald Taylor spin his web of lies about my husband, about our marriage, about the life we'd built together, something hardened inside me. The Taylors had taken enough from me. They'd stolen my peace, invaded my privacy, and now they were attempting to rewrite my history with Marcus. No more. At the police station, Detective Collins listened impassively as I recounted my meeting with Elliot, turning the phone over as evidence. He was a heavy-set man with tired eyes and a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, his rumpled suit suggesting long hours and little concern for appearances. "So let me get this straight," he said when I finished. "Elliot Taylor, who helped forge his cousin's will, contacted you out of the blue to confess and provide evidence, then was conveniently attacked after meeting with you." His skepticism was palpable. "I don't know who attacked him," I said. "I left before it happened, but given everything that's going on with the Taylors—" "You think his own family had him beaten?" Collins's eyebrow rose. "That's a serious accusation, Mrs. Taylor." "So is forging a will to steal someone's company," I countered, "which I have evidence of thanks to Elliot." Collins made a non-committal, Noise, tapping his pen against his notepad. We're reviewing security footage from the park entrance, but the boathouse area isn't covered by cameras. Convenient for someone who might want to have a private conversation or commit assault. The implication hung in the air between us. Am I a suspect, detective? Let's just say there are multiple angles we're pursuing. He closed his notepad. Don't leave town, Mrs. Taylor. We'll be in touch. As Diane and I left the police station, my phone buzzed with a text from Sam. Emergency at the office. Jackson Capital threatening to pull all accounts. Need you here ASAP. I showed Diane the message. The Taylors move fast, she observed grimly. Judge Wong issues an injunction, so they go after your clients instead. I need to handle this, I said. Richard Jackson isn't just any client. He's nearly half our business. What about visiting Elliot at the hospital? I hesitated, torn between immediate business concerns and the nagging fear for Elliot's safety. Can you go? Just check on him? Make sure he has security? Diane nodded. I'll head there now and call you with an update. You handle Jackson. We parted ways, Diane heading to Mercy Hospital while I took a taxi to our office building. The familiar logo of Taylor and Okafor Financial Services gleamed in the midday sun as I approached, a stylized T&O that Marcus had designed himself. Would it soon be just Taylor Financial again? The thought sent a fresh wave of determination through me. Not if I could help it. Inside, the office was in barely controlled chaos. Employees huddled in small groups, conversations stopping abruptly as I passed. Sam met me at the elevator, his usual easygoing demeanor replaced by tight-lipped anxiety. It's worse than I thought, he said without preamble, guiding me toward the conference room. Jackson isn't just threatening to leave, he's accusing us of mismanaging his accounts. What? That's absurd. His portfolio has outperformed projections for 3 straight quarters. I know that. You know that. But someone's been feeding him misinformation. Sam pushed open the conference room door to reveal Richard Jackson himself, sitting alone at the table, reviewing documents with a thunderous expression. He looked up as we entered, his steel-gray eyes narrowing. Mrs. Taylor finally decided to join us? Mr. Jackson, I greeted him, slipping into professional mode despite my inner turmoil. I understand you have concerns about your portfolio management. Concerns? He pushed a folder across the table toward me. I'd say finding out. My primary holdings have been leveraged as collateral for high-risk ventures goes beyond concerns. I frowned, opening the folder to find documentation I'd never seen before. Authorization forms with my signature and Marcus's, approving the use of Jackson Capital's blue-chip stocks as collateral for a series of speculative investments. My signature, which I had absolutely never provided. Another forgery. These are fake, I said immediately. I never signed these documents. Neither did Marcus. Jackson's expression didn't change. That's what your brother-in-law told me you'd say. My brother-in... I stopped, understanding dawning. Gerald Taylor is not my brother-in-law. He's my father-in-law, and he's currently attempting to steal my company through a forged will. So you keep claiming. Jackson tapped the documents. But these signatures look authentic to me, and Gerald Taylor provided banking records showing the transfers. My mind raced. They'd manufactured evidence of financial malfeasance to drive away our biggest client. And they'd done it thoroughly enough to convince a man as savvy as Richard. Jackson. Mr. Jackson, I said carefully. You've known Marcus and me for years. Have we ever given you reason to doubt our integrity? Our commitment to your financial security? A flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. No, which is why this is so disturbing. The Taylors are desperate, I explained. Their firm is failing. They need our client base, our resources. First they forged Marcus's will, and now they're forging documents to undermine your confidence in us. Jackson's eyes narrowed. Prove it. I will. But I need time. Time is money, Mrs. Taylor. And right now, my money appears to be at risk. I took a deep breath. Give me 48 hours. If I can't prove these documents are forgeries by then, I'll personally guarantee any losses your portfolio has sustained. Jackson studied me for a long moment. 24 hours, and I want daily reports directly from your accounting department going forward. It wasn't ideal, but it was better than losing him entirely. Agreed. After Jackson left, Sam collapsed into a chair. How are they doing this? Those signatures looked genuine, even to me. They had practice with Marcus's will, I said grimly, and they probably have samples of my signature from countless documents over the years. My phone rang. Diane. Elliot's gone, she said without preamble, her voice tight with concern. What do you mean gone? Transferred to another facility? 30 minutes before I arrived. According to the nurse, orders came from his next of kin, Imani Taylor. No record of where he was taken. A chill ran through me. Why would Imani move an unconscious, critically injured man? Unless… Diane, we need to find him. Now. I'm already on it. I've called every hospital in a 50-mile radius. Nothing yet. Keep trying. And Diane, be careful. The Taylors are escalating. After hanging up, I turned to Sam. I need every piece of information you can find on Judge Martin Friedland and his connection to Gerald Taylor. Court cases, investment partnerships, anything. The judge who issued the first injunction against Advantage Holdings? Sam clarified. The same. If Gerald Taylor has judges in his pocket, we need to know how deep that influence runs. Sam nodded. What are you going to do? I gathered my things, a plan already forming. I'm going to find out exactly what Marcus was doing in his father's office the week before he died, and why he was really considering a merger. How? By asking the one person who might actually know the truth. I headed for the door. His mother, Vivian Taylor, had always been the enigma in the family, cold and distant toward me, yet seemingly devoted to Marcus despite supporting Gerald's decision to cut him off. If anyone knew what had really transpired between Marcus and his father, in those final days it would be her. Finding her wouldn't be difficult. Every Thursday for the past 20 years, Vivian Taylor volunteered at the Art Institute from 3 to 6 p.m., a ritual so sacrosanct that Gerald joked it was the only time he couldn't reach his wife even in emergencies. Today was Thursday, and I had questions only Vivian could answer. What I didn't know was whether those answers would save me or destroy the last shreds of my belief in the man I had married. The Art Institute of Chicago stood like a fortress of culture against the gray November sky, its grand limestone facade unmoved by the human dramas played out within its walls. I found Vivian Taylor exactly where I expected, in the Impressionist gallery explaining Monet's haystacks to a group of enthralled senior citizens. I hung back, studying her. Even at 62, Vivian was striking. Tall and elegant with silver-streaked dark hair swept into a chignon. She had the same expressive hands as Marcus, the same graceful way of gesturing when making an important point. Watching her, I felt a pang of loss so acute it momentarily took my breath away. When the tour moved on to the next gallery, I approached. She saw me coming, her posture stiffening, but to her credit, she didn't flee. Zara, she acknowledged coolly. I assume this isn't a coincidence. We need to talk, I said simply. Her eyes flicked to her watch. I have another tour in 20 minutes. This won't take long, she sighed, gesturing to a nearby bench positioned before a Renoir landscape. We sat with careful distance between us, like opposing diplomats at failed peace talks. What did Marcus tell you about the merger? I asked, dispensing with pleasantries. If my directness surprised her, she didn't show it. That he was considering it. That Gerald had made a compelling case for combining resources. And you believed that? After 15 years of estrangement? Something flickered across her face. Pain, perhaps. Or guilt. Families are complicated, Zara. Estrangement doesn't mean the bonds are broken. The bond seemed pretty broken when you all skipped our wedding, and Marcus's graduation, and every holiday for 15 years. That was Gerald's doing, not mine, she snapped, her composure cracking slightly. I wanted to be there, for all of it. The admission surprised me. Then why weren't you? Vivian stared at the Renoir, her profile a study in carefully controlled emotion. Because marriages require compromise. Gerald couldn't accept Marcus's choice to marry you and abandon the family business. I couldn't defy my husband openly without destroying my marriage. So you chose your husband over your son. I chose to maintain what influence I had, she corrected sharply. To keep a channel open. Who do you think sent Marcus the birthday? Cards every year? The Christmas gifts? The updates about family members? I remembered those cards, always signed, Love Mother in elegant script, never mentioning Gerald. The gifts that arrived with no return address. Marcus had kept them all, in a box in his closet, a bittersweet collection of maternal breadcrumbs. If you were so concerned about your son, why are you supporting Gerald's attempt to steal everything Marcus built? Vivian's hands twisted in her lap, the first sign of genuine distress I'd seen from her. It's more complicated than you know. Then, uncomplicate it for me. What was Marcus really doing at your husband's office the week before he died? Her head snapped toward me, eyes widening. How do you know about that? Elliot told me. Before someone put him in the hospital and then made him disappear. Vivian paled. Disappear? What are you talking about? Either she was a superb actress, or this was genuinely news to her. I quickly explained about Elliot's attack and subsequent transfer from the hospital. Imani, Vivian whispered, something like fear crossing her features. She's going too far. Too far with what exactly? What is happening, Vivian? She glanced around the gallery, confirming we were alone before leaning closer. Marcus came to the firm because Gerald told him the truth, or part of it at least. That the firm was in financial trouble, that Gerald had made some questionable decisions to keep it afloat. What kind of questionable decisions? Investments with people he shouldn't have been involved with. Loans from sources that expect more than financial returns. The kind of people you don't say no to. A chill ran through me. Are you saying Gerald got involved with organized crime? Not directly. At least, not at first. It started with a client, Alexei Petrov. Russian businessman, very wealthy, very connected. He brought in several high-net-worth clients, all looking for creative investment vehicles. Her mouth twisted. On the word, creative. By the time Gerald realized who he was really dealing with, it was too late. They owned him. The pieces were starting to fit together. And when Gerald couldn't meet their demands, he decided to use our firm as a lifeline. Vivian nodded. Marcus was livid when he found out. Said Gerald had put the entire family at risk, but he also understood the danger was real. So the merger wasn't about family legacy at all. It was about using our assets to pay off Gerald's debts to criminals. Partially, Vivian admitted. But Marcus also saw it as a way to protect the family name, to quietly clean up Gerald's mess without public scandal. He was going to restructure everything, create a firewall between the legitimate business and the problematic accounts. My mind reeled. Marcus had been planning to use our company to bail out his father's criminal connections. The idea was so contrary to everything I knew about my husband that I struggled to process it. I don't believe you, I said flatly. Marcus would never involve our business with anything illegal, and he certainly wouldn't do it without telling me. He was trying to protect you, Vivian insisted. He knew once the merger was complete, he could isolate the toxic assets and gradually unwind them without raising suspicion. But he needed to move quickly, before Petrov's people realized what was happening. If this is true, why didn't he tell, me? We were partners in everything. Vivian's expression softened fractionally. Because he knew you'd refuse, that you'd insist on going to the authorities. and that would have signed Gerald's death warrant. I stared at her, searching for deception and finding none. Even if I believe this, and I'm not saying I do, what does it have to do with the forged will, with what's happening now? When Marcus died, Petrov's people didn't just lose Gerald's cooperation, they lost their clean exit strategy. Vivian's voice dropped even lower. They've given Gerald 3 months to deliver what was promised, or they'll come after the entire family. The forged will, the merger. It's all about survival now. At my expense, I pointed out. Yes, she acknowledged simply. I'm not proud of it, Zara, but I won't apologize for trying to protect my family. I'm family too, I said, the words emerging, more vulnerably than I'd intended. At least I was supposed to be. Something that might have been regret flickered across Vivian's face. You were never going to be accepted as family, Zara. Not by Gerald. Not in any way that mattered. The brutal honesty stung, but it wasn't anything I hadn't already known. Because I'm black. Because you're independent, she corrected, though we both knew that was only part of it. Gerald needs to control his world completely. You were never controllable. Marcus loved that about you. Gerald hated it. A pensive silence fell between us. Around us, museum patrons drifted past, oblivious to the web of deception and danger being untangled on our quiet bench. What happens now? I finally asked. Do you expect me to just hand everything over to save Gerald from his own terrible decisions? No, Vivian said, surprising me. I expect you'll fight, and you should. She opened her purse and removed a small flash drive, pressing it into my palm. This contains account numbers, contacts, details of all Gerald's dealings with Petrov. Marcus made a copy before he left that day. I stared at the drive, then at Vivian. Why are you giving me this? Because you were right about one thing. Elliot's. Attack changes everything. If Imani is working directly with Petrov's people, she trailed off, fear evident in her eyes. This has gone too far, and it needs to end before someone else gets hurt. Why should I trust you? This could be another setup. You shouldn't trust me, she said bluntly. Verify everything on that. Drive independently, but do it quickly. Gerald has a meeting with Petrov tomorrow night. Once those documents change hands, it's over. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. My phone buzzed. A text from Sam. Found connection between Judge Friedland and Gerald. Call me now! I stood, tucking the flash drive securely into my jacket pocket. I need to go. But Vivian, if this is another manipulation, it's not. She reached for my arm, her fingers surprisingly strong. Whatever you think of me, know this, I loved my son, and he loved you completely. Her voice caught. The night before he died, he called me. He said he finally understood why I'd stayed with Gerald all these years, even through the worst of it. That sometimes love means making impossible choices to protect the people who matter. The revelation hit me with physical force. Marcus had called his mother the night before he died, something he'd never mentioned to me. What else had my husband kept secret? I left Vivian in the gallery and hurried outside, hands shaking as I called Sam. Tell me, I said the moment he answered. Judge Friedland has a gambling problem, Sam said without preamble. Major debts at casinos in Vegas, Atlantic City, online, poker sites. And guess who bailed him out 3 years ago? Gerald Taylor. Better. One of Gerald's clients, Alexei Petrov, transferred $200,000 directly to Friedland's personal account, disguised as a consulting fee for legal advice on a real estate deal. Vivian's story was checking out. Sam, I think we're in deeper trouble than we realized. The Taylors aren't just trying to steal our company. They're involved with Russian organized crime. I quickly summarized my conversation with Vivian, including the flash drive she'd given me. Jesus, Sam breathed. You think Marcus really knew about this? That he was going to use our firm to clean up Gerald's mess? I don't know what to believe anymore, I admitted. But we need to see what's on this drive. Not over any network, Sam cautioned. If these people are as connected as they sound, they could be monitoring everything. We need a clean computer, offline. I have an old laptop at home. Meet me there. In 30 minutes. As I hailed a taxi, another text came through, this one from Diane. Called in a favor with a police contact. Elliot was transferred to a private facility in Lake Forest under the name John Evans. Going there now. I texted back quickly, "Wait for me. Don't go alone. This is bigger than we thought." Her response was immediate. "Already en route. Will. Be careful. Meet me there? 1420 Greenview Drive." I hesitated. Sam was expecting me at home to examine the flash drive, but Elliot might have critical information about Imani's connection to Petrov. If he was conscious, his testimony could be the key to stopping whatever was planned for tomorrow night. I made a split-second decision and gave the taxi driver the Lake Forest address. Sam could wait an hour. I'd already texted him the address. For the drive. The private facility turned out to be an imposing mansion set back from the road, surrounded by manicured gardens and a discreet but obvious security system. The sign at the gate read, "Greenview Recovery Center, private patients only." Diane's car was parked across the street. I found her watching the facility through binoculars from a strategic vantage point in a coffee shop with a clear view of the entrance. 2 guards at the gate, more inside, I'm sure, she reported as I slid into the seat beside her. Definitely not a standard medical facility. Have you seen Elliot? No, but I confirmed he's here. My contact's sister is a nurse inside. She says he was admitted late last night, heavily sedated. Private suite on the 3rd floor, no visitors allowed except immediate family. Is he conscious? In and out, apparently. Head trauma, broken ribs, internal bleeding. Whoever attacked him wasn't messing around. I fought back a wave of guilt. Elliot might be a flawed character, but he'd tried to do the right thing in the end, and he'd paid a terrible price for it. We need to talk to him, I said. Find out exactly what he knows about Imani's connection to Petrov. Diane raised an eyebrow. Petrov? The Russian client Gerald mentioned during our discovery requests last year? The same. Turns out he's not just a client. He's essentially Gerald's owner. And possibly Imani's partner in whatever's happening tomorrow night. Diane's expression grew grave as I filled her in on everything Vivian had told me. This is way beyond a family dispute over a will, she said when I finished. This is potential. RICO territory. We need to take this to the FBI. With what evidence? A flash drive from Vivian Taylor, who's been party to the fraud against me? Elliot's testimony, which we can't access? We need more. Diane pointed toward the facility. Like getting Elliot out of there and somewhere safe until he can make an official statement. I nodded slowly, an idea forming. The nurse who confirmed he's there, would she help us? For the right price, maybe. My contact says she's been looking for a new position. Apparently, the medical care at Greenview isn't always strictly by the book. Tell her we'll double her salary and help her relocate if she gets us in to see Elliot. And if she can create a distraction to get him out, even better. Diane studied me with a mixture of concern and respect. You know we'd be breaking about a dozen laws, right? Interfering with a medical facility, moving a critically injured patient. Add it to the list, I said grimly. At this point, I'm more worried about Elliot ending up permanently silenced than about legal technicalities. While Diane made the call, I texted Sam an update and asked him to start analyzing the flash drive without me. Then, I called Detective Collins, Mrs. Taylor, he answered, his tone guarded. I was about to call you. We've been reviewing the park security footage. And, a pause. And it shows you leaving via the back path approximately 3 minutes before a black SUV arrived. 2 individuals exited the vehicle and approached Elliot Taylor. 7 minutes. Later, they returned to the SUV, which then left the scene. Could you identify them? Not conclusively from the footage. The angle is poor, and they were wearing hooded jackets. But the SUV is registered to Imani Taylor. My heart raced. So, you know I didn't attack Elliot. It appears that way, Collins acknowledged, which raises the question of why someone would try to make it look like you did. The same reason they forged my husband's will and are now trying. To destroy my company. To take what isn't theirs. I took a deep breath. Detective, I believe Elliot Taylor's life is in danger. He's been moved to a private facility in Lake Forest under a false name. How do you know this? I have sources, but what matters is that the people who attacked him now have him isolated. I think they intend to silence him permanently. Collins was silent for a moment. That's a serious accusation, Mrs. Taylor. It's a serious situation. Elliot has evidence implicating the Taylors not just in forgery, but in connections to organized crime. Specifically, to a Russian named Alexei Petrov. The name dropped like a stone into the conversation. Collins's tone changed immediately. Stay where you are, he ordered. Don't approach the facility. I'm contacting the organized crime unit now. How long will that take? Elliot could be... Mrs. Taylor, Collins cut me off, his voice deadly serious. If Petrov is involved, this is not something you want to handle personally. His organization doesn't leave witnesses. A chill ran through me. All the more reason to get Elliot out now. Let law enforcement handle this. I mean it, Mrs. Taylor. Where are you right now? I hesitated, then gave him the name of the coffee shop and its location. Stay there, he repeated. I'll have officers at your location in 20 minutes. Do not approach the Greenview facility. After hanging up, I turned to Diane, who had just finished her own call. The nurse is willing to help, she reported. For a price. But she says we need to move fast. Elliot is scheduled for transfer again tonight at 8 p.m. I checked my watch. 5:42 p.m. Just over 2 hours. Collins is sending officers here. He says not to approach the facility. Diane's expression was skeptical. And if those officers don't arrive in time? Or if they need warrants that take hours to obtain? What happens to Elliot then? She was right. By the time the police navigated the necessary red tape, Elliot could be gone. Or worse. The nurse says she can get us visitor passes as medical consultants, Diane continued. We go in, assess the situation, and decide then whether to try moving him. I weighed our options. Waiting for the police was safer, but risked Elliot's life. Moving forward without them was dangerous, but might be Elliot's only chance. Marcus would have waited for the authorities. He'd always believed in the system, in doing things the right way. But Marcus hadn't lived long enough to see just how corrupted that system could become when people like Petrov were involved. And he hadn't known the full extent of his father's crimes, or how far Imani would go to protect the family's secrets. Tell the nurse we'll be there in 20 minutes, I decided. But we're not moving him unless absolutely necessary. If the police arrive in time, we let them handle it. Diane nodded, already texting the nurse our decision. As we gathered our things, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the coffee shop window. Determined, focused, perhaps a little reckless. I barely recognized the woman staring back at me. A week ago, I'd been a grieving widow. Now I was planning what amounted to a hospital break-in to save a man who had helped forge my husband's will. Life's strange turns never ceased to amaze me. But one thing was absolutely clear. Whatever secrets Marcus had kept, whatever choices he'd made in those final days, I would not let the Taylors destroy everything we had built together. And I would not let them silence the one man who could expose their crimes, even if saving him meant breaking a few laws of my own. Getting into Greenview Recovery Center proved alarmingly easy. The nurse Diane had contacted, a petite Filipina woman named May, who looked too young to have the 10 years of experience she claimed, met us at a side entrance reserved for staff. She provided us with lab coats, visitor badges identifying us as medical consultants, and a terse set of instructions. "Third floor, west wing, room 312, she whispered, glancing nervously at the security camera mounted above the door. "I've logged you in the system as specialist consulting on his neurological status. You have 20 minutes before shift change when the new supervisor will check credentials." "Is he conscious?" I asked, adjusting the too large lab coat. "In B and out. They've got him on heavy sedatives." May's mouth tightened. "Medically unnecessary, in my opinion. Just enough to keep him disoriented without raising flags on his chart." "And the guards?" Diane asked. "One outside his room. Says he's family security, but he's got a concealed weapon." May shook her head. "This place caters to wealthy patients who value privacy, but this is extreme even for Greenview." She swiped her keycard and ushered us inside, guiding us through a labyrinth of pristine hallways that looked more like a luxury spa than a medical facility. Soft music played overhead, and the air smelled faintly of lavender rather than antiseptic. We took the service elevator to avoid the main desk. When the doors opened on the 3rd floor, May pointed down a corridor to the right. "I'll create a distraction to pull the guard away. Medical emergency in room 325. Should buy you 5 minutes, max." She pressed a spare keycard into my hand. "For his room, don't get caught with it." The weight of the keycard in my palm made everything suddenly, terrifyingly real. Until this moment, I could have convinced myself we were just gathering information. Now I was about to enter a secured medical facility under false pretenses, potentially interfering with a patient's care. If caught, I'd face criminal charges. If I didn't go through with it, Elliot might disappear forever. "Go now," May urged, already moving down the hall in the opposite direction. Diane and I walked purposefully toward room 312, trying to project the confidence of medical professionals, with every right to be there. A muscular man in a dark suit stood outside the door, his posture alert despite his casual stance. "Excuse me," I said as we approached. "We're here to evaluate Mr. Evans's neurological status." The guard frowned. "I wasn't notified about any consultants." "It should be in the chart," Diane replied smoothly, using the imperious tone she typically reserved for difficult opposing counsel. "Dr. Richards specifically requested our assessment before the patient's transfer." The guard looked unconvinced. But before he could question us further, alarms began blaring from down the hall. May's distraction. "Code blue in 325. All available medical personnel respond." The overhead announcement sent staff running past us. The guard hesitated, clearly torn between maintaining his post and investigating the commotion. "Sir, we need access to our patient," I said firmly. "Every minute counts with traumatic brain injuries." That tipped the balance. "Make it quick," he grunted, stepping aside but not leaving completely. I swiped the keycard with a silent prayer. The light flashed green, and we slipped inside, closing the door behind us. Elliot Taylor lay still against stark white sheets, his face mottled with bruises in various stages of purple and yellow. A ventilator hissed rhythmically beside him, and multiple monitors beeped in a discordant symphony of vital signs. He looked smaller somehow, vulnerable in a way that seemed wrong for someone connected to the imperious Taylor family. "My God," Diane whispered, "they really did a number on him." I approached the bed, scanning the monitors. Despite my complete lack of medical training, even I could tell his vital signs were stable. Artificially stable, perhaps, given what May had said about the sedatives. "Elliot," I said, keeping my voice low. "Elliot, can you hear me?" His eyelids fluttered but didn't open. "We don't have much time," Diane warned, keeping watch at the door. "The guard is still out there, looking antsy." I gently touched Elliot's arm. "Elliot, it's Zara Taylor. I need you to wake up, just for a moment." This time his eyes cracked open, unfocused and glassy. Czar? His voice was a dry rasp. Yes, it's me. Elliot, I need to know. Did Imani send those men to attack you in the park? He blinked slowly, struggling against the sedatives. Not Imani. Then who? Petrov's men. His words slurred. Together. Imani works for him now. My blood ran cold. What does Petrov want? What's happening tomorrow night? Elliot's eyes drifted closed again, and for a moment I thought we'd lost him back to sedation. Then they snapped open with surprising clarity. The ledger, he whispered. Marcus found Petrov's ledger. All the judges, politicians, everyone Gerald bought for him. Where is it? I asked urgently. Safe. Deposit. Key in Marcus's watch case. Marcus's vintage watch collection. He kept them in a special case in the back of our closet. I'd never paid much attention to it, assuming it contained only the watches and perhaps their documentation. They're moving me tonight, Elliot continued, his words growing fainter. Won't survive the transfer. We're going to get you out, I promised, though I had no idea how. A ghost of a smile crossed his battered face. Too late for me. His hand feebly caught my wrist. But you... Be careful. Imani has nothing to lose now. The door handle jiggled, and Diane hissed a warning. Someone's coming! Elliot, I have to go. The police know where you are. They're coming. I squeezed his hand. Tell them. Marcus didn't know how deep it went. His eyes were closing again. Tried to protect. You. Tell my mother. I'm sorry. The door opened and I braced for discovery. But it was May. Her face flushed with urgency. You need to leave now, she whispered. Security is reviewing the cameras. They know something's wrong. We can't leave him, I insisted. They're going to kill him. The police are here, May said. Just arrived at the front gate. Multiple cars. Relief washed over me. Collins had come through after all. Is there somewhere we can hide until they're inside? Diane asked. May nodded. Supply closet at the end of the hall. Follow me. But first, she moved to Elliot's IV stand and deftly adjusted something. Reducing his sedative. He needs to be coherent when the police question him. We slipped out of the room, the guard nowhere in sight, either responding to the commotion elsewhere or aware that something was happening at the front entrance. Mee led us quickly to the supply closet, ushering us inside. Stay here until you hear the police on this floor, she instructed. I need to get back to my station before I'm missed. Thank you, I said, impulsively hugging her. You're saving his life? A rare smile softened her serious face. Let's hope so. She closed the door, leaving Diane and me in the darkness among shelves of medical supplies. Through the slats in the door, we could see a portion of the hallway and hear the increasing commotion throughout the facility. Think this will work? Diane whispered. It has to, I replied. Elliot is our best chance at stopping whatever's happening tomorrow night. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot. To us! Now back to the story. We didn't have to wait long. Within minutes, the unmistakable sound of multiple footsteps and authoritative voices echoed up from the floors below. I could make out fragments of heated conversation, demands for patient, records, protests from administrators, the word warrant repeated several times. My phone vibrated. A text from Collins. We're inside. Where are you? I quickly replied, giving him our location. Moments later, the stairwell door at the end of our hallway burst open, and several officers in tactical gear emerged, followed by Collins in his rumpled suit. Room 312, I heard him direct them. Secure the patient. I pushed open the supply closet door. Detective? Collins whirled, his hand instinctively moving toward his weapon before he recognized me. His expression darkened. "I told you to stay at the coffee shop," he growled, striding toward us. "And miss all the excitement?" I attempted a smile that faltered under his glare. "Do you have any idea how lucky you are?" We intercepted 3 of Petrov's men on their way in, armed and carrying what appears to be a lethal injection disguised as medication. He shook his head in disbelief. They were coming to finish what they started in the park. The reality of how close Elliot had come to death hit me like a physical blow. Is he safe now? We're moving him to a secure location. Federal marshals are taking over his protection. Collins studied me critically. "How did you get in here anyway?" "Creative consulting," Diane supplied smoothly. "Did Elliot say anything useful to you yet?"